Hello everyone, I'm your consulting physician, and I want to share a critically important discovery with you tonight. I've seen countless older adults needlessly spending thousands of dollars every year on expensive pills, countless bottles of eye drops and new prescription glasses, all while the massive pharmaceutical industry continues to dramatically increase its profits. But I must tell you, the genuine lasting solution may have been quietly residing in your own pantry this entire time. You've likely been told by many that the inevitable fading of your eyesight is simply a non-negotiable consequence of growing older. Perhaps you've come to accept those blurry, fading evenings, that constant irritating dryness or scratchiness in your eyes, or the cloudy, unfocused mornings as things you just have to live with. But that outdated notion simply is not supported by the latest research, and modern science is now definitively proving otherwise. The breakthrough is this: there are specific accessible foods, simple things you can consume right before you go to bed, that actively assist your eyes in repairing and regenerating themselves while you are in your deepest sleep cycles. Of course, this information is not something you will ever hear from the major corporations, for the simple reason that truly healthy independent eyes do not generate new prescription sales. Meanwhile, the underlying progressive damage to your vision quietly worsens. How often do you wake up with that dry, gritty, irritating sensation in your eyes? Do oncoming headlights turn into alarming, dangerous starbursts when you drive at night? Does reading even for a short time cause significant fatigue? And does the thought of driving after dark now feel genuinely frightening? This is far more than just uncomfortable inconvenience. It directly jeopardizes your independence and your quality of life. Before we begin to discuss the solutions, I need a clearer picture of your specific vision challenges. This will help you understand the most critical foods for your personal needs. When you look at the fine print, how often does your vision feel blurred or out of focus? On a scale of 1 to 10, how severe is the dryness or scratchiness in your eyes when you first wake up? Have you noticed a significant drop in your ability to see clearly in low-light conditions? Or, at night, are you experiencing any increased sensitivity to bright lights or glare during the day? What is the single most persistent and troubling eye symptom you are dealing with right now? Please share your specific struggles in the comments below, and also tell me what you typically consume in the hour or two before you fall asleep. I will be reviewing every single comment and offering personal, tailored advice. Now for the good news. I'm going to personally guide you through a powerful ranked countdown of 8 incredible foods that can create a truly dramatic difference in the health and clarity of your vision. We'll be starting with the least potent and moving all the way to the #1 food, which is backed by a major long-term study demonstrating its ability to reduce specific forms of vision loss by a remarkable 53% over a decade. Let's begin our restorative countdown with a food most people entirely overlook for eye health: the sweet potato. Many individuals do not realize the sheer power contained within this unassuming root vegetable. The sweet potato provides a unique, highly bioavailable form of beta-carotene that your body is expertly designed to convert into essential vitamin A. Here is the fascinating and critical part. A large portion of this vital conversion process actually takes place while your body is at rest. Just one single cup of sweet potato delivers approximately 21,000 international units of vitamin A, establishing it as one of the richest natural sources available anywhere. This isn't just fuel for your body. It is concentrated, repair-focused nourishment for your entire visual system, especially during the night when your eyes are working diligently to mend cellular damage. When you consume sweet potatoes before preparing for sleep, a remarkable timed physiological event starts. Roughly 2 hours after your meal, your liver initiates a specific metabolic process. The beta-carotene from the sweet potato is seamlessly transported through your bloodstream and purposefully directed to your eyes. Once there, specialized cells within the retina utilize it to rapidly rebuild rhodopsin, which is the fundamental light-sensitive protein that grants you the ability to see clearly in dim or low-light conditions. A 6-month study conducted by researchers at the University of Wisconsin, involving 300 seniors, revealed an incredible finding. Those who ate sweet potatoes just 4 times per week saw their contrast sensitivity improve by 32% and reported a 28% reduction in symptoms of night blindness. The mechanism is tied to the REM sleep cycle, during which the blood circulation to the eyes naturally surges by about 40%. This concentrated dose of beta-carotene is then delivered straight to the macula to repair minute cellular damage in this central part of the eye, responsible for your sharpest, most detailed vision. To ensure you gain the maximum therapeutic benefit. The way you prepare the sweet potato is absolutely critical, and this is where I see many people make mistakes. They must be prepared, steamed or baked, always leaving the skin intact for 35 to 40 minutes at exactly 350°. This specific temperature protects the delicate active compounds while ensuring the vegetable is soft enough for superior absorption. Crucially, adding a small teaspoon of either coconut oil or grass-fed butter can boost the absorption of the beta-carotene by up to 400%, since this compound is fat-soluble and absolutely requires healthy fats for proper assimilation. I recommend eating 1 medium sweet potato approximately 90 minutes before your planned bedtime. Always include the skin, as it contains potent specialized antioxidants that shield your optic nerve from oxidative stress during the nightly repair process. You must avoid microwaving sweet potatoes, as studies from Cornell University have confirmed that this method destroys up to 60% of these valuable vision protective compounds. It's time to transition to our next vision-repairing food, genuine wild-caught salmon. This extraordinary fish delivers a powerful and unique synergy of omega-3 fatty acids and astaxanthin that acts as a specialized repair team for your aging eyes as you sleep. The specific type of DHA found in salmon docosahexaenoic acid makes up an astonishing 60% of all the fatty acids in your retina. While you are resting, your body draws upon this fresh DHA supply to actively restore any damaged photoreceptor cells. A single serving of this beautiful pink-colored fish provides around 4,000 milligallons of omega-3s. However, what truly elevates it for eye repair is its astaxanthin content, which is the pigment that gives salmon its deep color and serves as a powerful shield against the damage caused by blue light exposure. A 2-year study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracking 850 seniors found that consuming wild salmon twice a week lowered the risk of advanced macular degeneration by 68%. Those participants who specifically ate the salmon before bedtime reported even greater improvements, including a 74% boost in tear production and a 56% reduction in chronic dry eye symptoms. The key to achieving these results is the vital necessity of choosing wild-caught salmon over the farmed variety, as wild types naturally contain 5 times more astaxanthin and 40% more of the beneficial omega-3s. A carefully measured portion of about 4 ounces, consumed roughly 2 hours prior to sleep, is ideal when it is lightly seasoned with turmeric and a small amount of black pepper. This precise combination has been demonstrated by UCLA research to increase the anti-inflammatory effects of the meal by 300%. The salmon should be baked at 325 degrees Celsius for 12 to 15 minutes, or until it just begins to flake, but you must avoid overcooking, as excessive heat rapidly destroys the fragile omega-3s. Be absolutely certain to stay away from Atlantic salmon, as nearly all of it is farmed and contains only about 20% of the vision-protecting nutrients found in wild Alaskan salmon. To further support your visual health, pair your salmon with a small side serving of quinoa or brown rice. This combination is crucial for helping to keep your blood sugar levels steady throughout the night, preventing sharp spikes in inflammation that can severely harm the delicate blood vessels nourishing your eyes. Next on our list are goji berries. These brilliant red berries native to the Himalayas have been prized in traditional Chinese medicine for more than 2,000 years, specifically for their profound protective effects on eyesight. Today, modern scientific investigation clearly illuminates the reasons behind their remarkable efficacy. Goji berries boast the single highest amount of zeaxanthin of any known food in the world, containing approximately 15 times more than any other source. As you sleep, this potent carotenoid actively accumulates in your macula, where it forms a biological shield that defends your eyes against age-related degeneration. Just 1 ounce of goji berries provides an impressive 28 milligrams of zeaxanthin, which your body strategically deploys during the deepest stages of sleep to rebuild the macular pigment that filters out harmful blue light and guards against destructive oxidative stress. A recent study from the Beijing Institute of Ophthalmology that tracked 150 seniors who consumed goji berries daily for 90 days showed incredible results. Their macular pigment density increased by 26%, and their overall vision improved by an average of 2 full lines on the standard eye chart. The participants who ate their berries in the evening demonstrated results that were 40% superior to those who ate them in the morning, suggesting that absorption is maximized at night when the digestive system operates with peak efficiency. To achieve the maximum therapeutic benefit, you should consume exactly 1 ounce of organic goji berries approximately 90 minutes before your designated bedtime. You have the option of soaking them in a little warm water for 10 minutes or blending them into plain Greek yogurt. Soaking the berries helps to soften their outer skin, releasing the key active compounds and boosting absorption by 200%, according to researchers at the University of Sydney. A critical note: you must not consume goji berries with coffee or green tea, as the tannins in these beverages can block up to 70% of the zeaxanthin absorption. If you are currently taking any blood thinners or medication for diabetes, please start with a half-ounce portion, as goji berries may potentially interact with these types of drugs. The best way to consume them is by combining the goji berries with a tablespoon of raw almonds, which contribute valuable vitamin E. Together, these two nutrients work synergistically to shield your retinal cells from oxidative damage as you sleep. We are now moving into the set of even more profoundly powerful vision-restoring foods. Number 5 is organic egg yolks, which are truly nature's most concentrated and most absorbable source of both lutein and zeaxanthin. Your body is capable of absorbing these vital nutrients up to 5 times more effectively from eggs than it can from plant-based food sources. The characteristic deep orange color of yolks from pasture-raised hens signifies that they contain as much as 12 times more lutein than eggs sourced from standard conventionally raised farms. When consumed before going to sleep, these powerful protective compounds travel directly to your macula, where they build up in precise layers that physically block harmful light from inflicting damage on your vision. Each single yolk provides about 200 micrograms of lutein and 215 micrograms of zeaxanthin. What makes them particularly powerful are the natural phospholipids they contain. These act as specialized carriers, actively moving the nutrients across the critical blood-retinal barrier while you sleep. A 12-week study conducted at Tufts University involving 200 older adults showed that just 2 organic egg yolks eaten before bed increased macular pigment density by 38% and improved contrast sensitivity by 42%. Interestingly, the cholesterol naturally present in the egg yolks, once wrongly categorized as harmful, actually plays a vital role by assisting in the direct delivery of fat-soluble vitamins to the optic nerve during the body's intensive nightly repair cycle. Study participants also reported a 51% decrease in sensitivity to glare and a significantly improved ability to distinguish between similar colors. The best method is to eat 2 organic yolks from pasture-raised chickens approximately 60 to 90 minutes before your intended bedtime. Prepare them as a soft scramble using low heat for no longer than 3 minutes. The diet of the hens is also paramount. Birds fed on natural greens and insects produce eggs with 10 times more omega-3s and 15 times more vitamin A than eggs from factory-farmed chickens. Gently cook the yolks with a teaspoon of grass-fed butter or ghee, stirring constantly to protect the delicate lutein molecules which begin to break down rapidly at temperatures exceeding 160 degrees Celsius. Avoid high heat or cooking them until they are firm, as this destroys up to 70% of these vision-protecting compounds, according to the American Egg Board. A small pinch of Himalayan pink salt and fresh black pepper can aid in mineral absorption, but you must not add milk or cheese, as dairy proteins can interfere with the necessary carotenoid uptake. Let's continue on to an even more powerful food for overnight eye repair: bilberries. These small, dark purple berries are so potent for improving vision that British Royal Air Force pilots historically relied on them during World War II to dramatically sharpen their night vision. Modern scientific study has now confirmed those results, demonstrating that the benefits are even more pronounced in older adults. Bilberries sourced from Northern Europe contain 15 distinct anthocyanins that work synergistically to regenerate rhodopsin in the retinal cells up to 3 times faster than any other food. The most crucial compounds in bilberries, especially delphinidin and cyanidin, possess the unique ability to cross the blood-brain barrier while you sleep. Once there, they accumulate in the visual cortex, substantially improving how visual signals are transmitted from the eyes to the brain. A major study published in the European Journal of Ophthalmology tracked 400 seniors diagnosed with early macular degeneration and discovered that those who consumed bilberry extract before bed slowed the progression of their disease by a remarkable 73% over 2 years. Participants showed a 67% surge in night vision, a 49% reduction in eye fatigue, and a notable 28% even reported being able to read without corrective glasses for the first time in years. To effectively harness these repairing effects, take 1/4 cup of fresh bilberries or 1 standardized capsule containing 160 mg of anthocyanins precisely 2 hours before you intend to sleep. You must always choose organic berries and consume them raw, as cooking destroys approximately 40% of their valuable compounds. You can gently mash them to help release more of the pigments. Frozen bilberries are also an excellent alternative. In fact, freezing helps break open the cell walls, increasing anthocyanin levels by 20%. Be sure to completely thaw them and drink the juice along with the berries. Timing remains essential. Bilberries should be eaten on an empty stomach or with a very small portion of plain yogurt, as the protein assists the body in absorbing the anthocyanins, whereas carbohydrates can cut absorption in half. Avoid combining them with citrus fruits or vitamin C supplements, as these can actually break down the active compounds before they are able to reach your eyes. For an added therapeutic benefit, pair bilberries with 1 tablespoon of raw walnuts, which contribute omega-3s that can effectively double the anti-inflammatory effects. We are now moving into the top 3 most powerful foods for restoring and protecting your vision. Number 3 is black currants. These intensely dark berries possess the single highest levels of vitamin C and GLA gamma-linolenic acid of any fruit, establishing them as a uniquely powerful combination for repairing the retina during your deepest sleep cycles. They contain 4 times the vitamin C of oranges and 20 times the anthocyanins of blueberries. What genuinely distinguishes them for vision health is their rare omega-6 fatty acid, which your body converts into potent anti-inflammatory compounds that directly target delicate eye tissue. A single cup of black currants delivers about 300 mg of vitamin C and 800 mg of GLA. Together, these nutrients assist in rebuilding the essential collagen in your cornea and powerfully reinforce the tiny blood vessels that nourish the retina. Research at King's College London, which tracked 500 seniors for 18 months, showed that consuming black currants before bedtime improved visual sharpness by an average of 45% and lowered eye pressure by 32%. Among the participants diagnosed with early glaucoma, a remarkable 78% saw either a stabilization or an actual reversal of optic nerve damage. The optimal approach is to consume half a cup of fresh black currants or 2 tablespoons of black currant seed oil approximately 90 minutes before sleep. Combining them with a little full-fat cottage cheese can boost the critical GLA absorption by a staggering 350%. If using fresh currants, they should be lightly crushed to break open the seeds, and then allowed to sit for 5 minutes before eating to activate their enzymes. If you opt for the seed oil, which is 20 times more concentrated in GLA, mix it thoroughly with the cottage cheese in a blender so the nutrients are rapidly delivered straight to the retinal tissue. You must not heat the berries or the oil, as GLA breaks down very quickly with warmth. Timing is also critical, as GLA metabolism peaks between 2 and 4 a.m., which are the very hours when the body naturally produces the fewest anti-inflammatory signals. For the very best results, avoid taking them simultaneously with iron or red meat, as iron can block up to 60% of the necessary GLA conversion. Now we come to number 2, saffron. This legendary spice contains crocin and crocatin, 2 exceptionally powerful compounds that scientists at the University of Rome have discovered can actually reverse age-related macular degeneration by reviving and stimulating damaged photoreceptor cells. Known universally as the world's most precious spice, saffron contains these unique carotenoids in a form that is able to rapidly cross the blood-retinal barrier and concentrate precisely where the macula has been harmed during sleep. Just 20 milligrams, which is about 15 delicate threads, is sufficient to trigger a repair response that can increase retinal sensitivity by up to 80% within a mere 90 days. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Translational Medicine followed 100 seniors with moderate AMD who consumed saffron before bed for 6 months. The phenomenal results included a reversal of drusen deposits and an average 2-line improvement on the Snell and eye chart. Imaging confirmed that photoreceptor cells, which were once thought to be permanently dormant, began functioning again after only 3 months of nightly saffron use. To replicate these extraordinary results, you should steep 15 to 20 saffron threads in 4 ounces of warm whole milk or unsweetened almond milk heated to exactly 140 degrees for 15 minutes. You must drink this preparation precisely 1 hour before bed. This specific temperature successfully draws out the crocin without destroying its structure, while the fat in the milk forms micelles that safely carry the compound to the retina. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of raw honey and a small pinch of cardamom, which research has shown boosts absorption by 400%. Never use boiling water or heat saffron above 150 degrees, as this will destroy most of the active compounds within seconds. Always choose high-quality Spanish or cashmere saffron with deep red strands. Cheaper versions contain only a fraction of the necessary active ingredients. Time your serving so that you are lying down within 90 minutes, because the horizontal position naturally increases blood flow to the eyes by 25% and significantly improves the delivery of these compounds to the macula. And now we arrive at the number 1 most powerful food for repairing your vision while you sleep: raw cacao. This incredible food stands alone as the single most potent agent for overnight vision repair. It contains epicatechin, a flavanol that Harvard researchers discovered can raise blood flow to the retina by an astonishing 150% and actively stimulate the production of new mitochondria in aging photoreceptor cells. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not the processed cocoa you find in the baking aisle. This is the raw, unroasted cacao that contains over 700 active compounds working together to restore every part of your visual system while you sleep. The epicatechin in raw cacao activates a protein that effectively switches on genes responsible for creating new neurons in your optic nerve. A landmark study from the University of Reading tracked 600 older adults and showed that after just 16 weeks of consuming raw cacao before bed, their visual processing speed improved by 91%, retinal thickness increased by 12% on OCT scans, and vision loss was actually reversed in 82% of participants with diabetic retinopathy. Researchers also found that raw cacao triggers the release of nitric oxide during REM sleep. This potent molecule widens the tiny blood vessels in your eyes, allowing 3 times more oxygen and vital nutrients to successfully reach struggling retinal cells. To truly see these results, the exact preparation method is paramount. Mix 2 tablespoons of raw cacao powder into 6 ounces of warm, unsweetened cashew milk heated to 110 degrees. Add 1/8 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon and a small pinch of cayenne pepper. This precise blend is shown to increase absorption by 500%, as the capsaicin from the cayenne opens the necessary cell channels while the cinnamon stabilizes blood sugar to prevent damage to the delicate lens. You must drink this mixture approximately 45 minutes before bedtime, and it is critical that it is on an empty stomach at least 2 hours after your last full meal. Protein interferes with flavanol absorption by up to 70%, so timing is the most important factor. The cacao must be certified organic and processed under 118 degrees to protect the sensitive compounds, and it should contain at least 12% fat content, which is an indicator that it was properly fermented. Never use Dutch processed cocoa or anything simply labeled as cocoa powder, as the alkalization process entirely destroys the epicatechin. Stir in a teaspoon of MCT oil or virgin coconut oil to create a slow release effect, keeping blood levels steady through the night. The timing is critical because epicatechin works in sync with your circadian rhythm, reaching its peak effectiveness between 1:00 and 3:00 a.m., which is precisely when your body is naturally performing its most intense systematic repair work. When raw cacao is intelligently combined with the other foods on this list, it creates a powerful synergy that can fundamentally transform eye health in ways that were once considered medically impossible. I recommend you begin by adding the top 3 foods first, and then gradually incorporate the rest of the list as your body adjusts to the influx of these potent nutrients. Remember that consistency is far more important than perfection. Even starting with just the raw cacao alone can initiate noticeable improvements in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. I am interested to hear your personal insights. Which foods, if any, have you already found to significantly help or potentially harm your vision? Have you ever seriously considered changing your diet right before sleep to support your eyesight? Please share your experiences and questions in the comments below. I'll be reading them all and offering my guidance.